Hey everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video. And today we're going to go over the top 10 cards of Throne of Eldraine. We finally made it through spoiler season, guys. We got all the rest of the cards today, which was basically just a big common drop. And so instead of going over the common drops, I just decided to go ahead and say what I believe is the top 10 cards of Throne of Eldraine. Now, I am counting this towards standard. So it's the top 10 cards, Throne of Eldraine standard. So if you're seeing this after Throne of Eldraine standard or before Throne of Eldraine standard, just keep that in mind. Before we get into the actual video, guys, let me please ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I would greatly appreciate it. So without further ado, let us get into the first card of the day, starting with Oko, Thief of Crowns. So it's a 1 generic, 1 green, 1 blue, legendary planeswalker Oko. It is mythic rare. It has a +2 ability, create a food token. Then it has a +1 ability, target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. And then the -5 ability, exchange control of target artifact creature you control and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. Comes out for 4 loyalty for 3 mana. Now, the first thought I had with this was Gilded Goose. A lot of people are up in arms about Gilded Goose because it's kind of like a Birds of Paradise. And so, you bring Gilded Goose out turn 1. The next turn, you put a second land down. You tap Gilded Goose, tap your 2 lands, and you bring out Oko turn 2. Then the turn afterwards, you can make a food token. If you had a third land down, you're up to 4 mana on turn 3. And that's really good, especially in green. It allows you to play things like the Questing Beast, which I don't have a picture of right now. But it allows you to play bigger spells quicker. And especially with a format that doesn't have Llanowar Elves in it, that's very helpful. As well as continuously being able to have mana of any color off of Gilded Goose. And also, if you really want to, you can make Gilded Goose into a 3/3 elk. Now, the next card is basically just a draw spell, a draw enchantment, I should say, for having a sacrifice outlet for food. And with Oko being able to constantly create you food, and with Gilded Goose constantly being able to let you sacrifice food, you can continuously draw multiple cards in green in standard. And you can play this in mono green, because Oko Thief of Crowns can be played off of Gilded Goose and other cards. But anyways, the last card I want to talk about with Oko is Wolf's Quarry. And the reason I said this is because it was the first card that came to my mind when I was looking for small tokens. If you make a token build and you, for instance, bring out these tiny 1/1 green boar creature tokens, well, Oko can make them into 3/3s. And 3/3s are very good blockers. They kill some things, they die to some things, but they're at least a more valuable blocker than a 1/1. And it's a plus ability, so there you go. Plus, you can also exchange control of target artifact or creature you control, and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. And that would be okay for a 1/1 green boar token to be traded for, I don't know, a Gilded Goose. So let's get on to the next card. The next card is Garruk, Cursed Huntsman. This one was kind of a toss-up for me, but I did this because a lot of people were saying this card is valuable, and I can kind of see what they're talking about. So let's get into the card. 4 generic, 1 black, 1 green, legendary planeswalker Garruk. It's a mythic rare. It has a 0 ability. Create 2/2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens. With, when this creature dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garruk you control. The -3 ability is destroy target creature, draw a card. The -6 ability, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +3/+3 and have trample. It comes out for 5 loyalty for 6 mana. So first thing, you make 2/2/1 wolves. 2/2/2 wolves. The reason why a lot of people were fighting that this card is good in general is that it's a planeswalker that protects itself. And in the past, we've seen that planeswalkers that can protect themselves are very playable. And especially when the protecting yourself is a positive ability. Now, the thing is, it's not technically a positive ability with Garruk, because it is a 0 ability. You have to let the wolves die, and then you get your positive for Garruk. But, you know, it's not that bad. Off the top of my head, another planeswalker that makes anything is Tibalt, and he makes 1/1 little devils, and I compare that to these 2/2 wolves, and I say, wow, they're at least 2/2s, you know? So yeah, there's that. The destroy target creature and draw a card, that is just, not only, let's see, how would I describe that? You net 2 cards, because you take a card off their field, and then you add a card to your field, basically. So I think that's very good. Yes, it's a -3, but you're able to play it as soon as you bring out Garruk. I do like that it's a target creature and not target creature or planeswalker. I feel like they've been trying to really diversify with target creature or planeswalker, but that would make Garruk a little OP in my opinion. And now that, spoiler alert, he's cured from the curse, I just don't see him killing planeswalkers anymore, you know? So, the other thing I was going to mention with the wolves is that it says any Garruk planeswalker. So, for instance, with Garruk Wildspeaker, let's say you're not playing in Standard. I know I mentioned that most of this video is for Standard, but let's say you're not playing in Standard for a minute. You have Garruk Wildspeaker. Well, your 2/2 wolves die the turn you bring out Garruk Wildspeaker. You're all of a sudden allowed to ultimate it. And guess what? Creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. That looks very familiar. It's an emblem. But the Garruk Wildspeaker is not an emblem. So, I don't know. I just think that it's something to think about. I honestly, this was probably the first Garruk planeswalker I've ever had in a Standard that I've played. And probably the first one I'll actually see played. So, I'm interested to see how it works. The last thing I was going to say about this is that it turns, if you get the emblem off, creatures you control get +3/+3 and have trample. Your little 1 drop green spells, like this Flaxen Intruder here, becomes a 4/5. And then she also actually makes, with her adventure, she makes 3 2/2 green bear creature tokens that then become 5/5s. So the emblem's not completely crap, but it's not going to be the main reason to play Garruk, in my opinion. Anyways. The next card, Lucky Clover. So this card actually got ridiculous for me. It's 2 generic mana artifact uncommon. Whenever you cast an adventure, instant, or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Sarah Brennigan always remembered to kiss his good luck charm, having lost his foot to Wolverines the last time he forgot it. So, the first thing I thought about this, well, not technically the first thing, one of the things, and I actually wanted to mention this card because I don't think it deserves its mythic rarity. So, you have 1 Lucky Clover. Let's imagine just 1, not the possibility of a full playset out and making 4 copies of this certain adventure. No, let's just imagine 1. For 2 mana in this card, return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand, twice. So, being able to bounce things back on your opponent's side of the field is really good. It's called Tempo, and it works. I would like to mention that Lucky Clover is only 2 mana. It's only 2 mana, and it's super busted. Order of Midnight. The Alter Fate part. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Basically, draw 2 cards for the adventure. I think that's very worth it. I would also like to say Lucky Clover is an artifact that's colorless, so you can play it in any color. The other one I was thinking about is destroy target creature or planeswalker, you lose 2 life. Now this one gets a little tricky because when you copy it, you're going to lose not only 2 life, but 2 life again. But granted, you're taking 2 things potentially off the board that isn't just creatures, that isn't just planeswalkers, you know? So, I like this Lucky Clover. I like it better with our next card. And that is Fae of Wishes. So, the Fae of Wishes adventure is really what I want to talk about. Granted is what it's called. 3 generic, 1 blue, sorcery adventure. You may choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Now, you can't do that with sorceries. With adventures, because they are creatures. But you can do that with other things. I do want to mention the actual creature part of this. Flying, 1 generic, 1 blue, discard 2 cards, return Fae of Wishes to its owner's hand. Yada yada. Not really expecting to turn this, to bring this back to my hand. But I would like to say, if you're playing some blue-black Lucky Clover deck, let's say you play Murderous Rider, you have the Murderous Rider, the Swift End, Order of Midnight, and the Alter Fate. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you let your Fae of Wishes die, and then you return it to your hand. And then you play it for its adventure, then you bring it to the creature, then you return it to your hand. So I think there is going to be some kind of combo, blue-black adventure, maybe? And I think there's definitely support for that. But let's talk about the cards that you can wish for. And that is... yes, I'm sorry. I wanted to compare this card to Mastermind's Acquisition, which actually made its own deck. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Chromatic Black. And so, Chromatic Black was big for a minute there, and it all revolved around the idea of Mastermind's Acquisition. Oko, Thief of Crowns, is something you can fetch for, because you can fetch for Planeswalkers with this. That's really good. Oko is very diverse, so you definitely can do things with it. The other thing you can do is get these... These are just the first 2 spells I thought of. The other one you can get is Frogify, which turns your opponent's creature into a crappy little 1/1 frog. It loses all its abilities, at least. So, that's my thought with Fae of Wishes. There are going to be some ridiculous spells that you can get, but I couldn't think of any in such the time bind, to be honest with you. I was trying to think of it, and I was just like, But anyways, let's continue onwards. Feasting Troll King. I mentioned this one consistently throughout the spoiler season, and it's because it's the key factor in food tribal. So it's 2 generic, 4 green mana. Let's imagine you're playing mono green. It's a creature troll noble. It is a rare. It has vigilance. It has trample. When Feasting Troll King enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, create 3 food tokens. Sacrifice 3 food tokens, return Feasting Troll King from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your turn. So the reason why this card is so good is, first off, it has vigilance. Being able to attack and defend at the same time is ridiculous, and notoriously, green is not known for that. It's known for trample, which it also has, which is really good. 7/6 not being blocked by a 1/1 consistently is very good. The other part of this is that it brings 3 food tokens down when you cast it from your hand. And it also is on a cast trigger. I would like to mention that. So it already reoccurs itself. You can sacrifice those 3 original to bring it back. Not from your graveyard to your hand, but from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's also very easy to get 3 food tokens. Let's go with the first card, Wolf Quarry. If all 3 of your boars die, then you get 3 food tokens. Giant Opportunity gives you 3 food tokens if you don't sacrifice 2 food tokens to make a 7/7 giant. Witch's Oven allows you to sacrifice creatures to make it into a food token. If the toughness was 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens instead. So the thing is, too, with Witch's Oven, if you're about to lose the fight with Feasting Troll King versus something, let's say, you sacrifice Feasting Troll King to Witch's Oven, that gives you 2 out of the 3 food tokens that you need to get him back. So that's very good, and I'd like to mention the card I had before, way back, Trail of Crumbs, right there. Again, being able to sacrifice those to bring the Troll King back, and then paying like 3 mana to draw 3 cards. That's really good. I think Food Tribal is honestly going to be better than people are making it out to be. I haven't really heard people excited about Food Tribal, but I really am. And like I said, mostly because of cards like Feasting Troll King. I would also like to mention that it is not a freaking legendary, which surprises me. With a name like Feasting Troll King, I'd imagine it being a legendary. And so I'm kind of glad, because then you can play 4 copies of it, you know? So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for Food Tribal. And this just ties it all together. Realm-Cloaked Giant. Oh my gosh. I mentioned this card specifically for its adventure. Destroy all non-giant creatures. I assume there's not going to be a giant tribal in Standard. So this is basically 5 mana, 3 generic, 2 white, destroy all creatures. That being said, it does turn into a 7/7 giant with vigilance, and I love the collector's edition here. The art is awesome. We're not going to have a lot of board clears. I mean, we have Kaya's Wrath, we have Planar Cleansing, which is basically unplayable, and then you have Ritual of Soot. So it's not like we have a good amount of board clears, and Realm-Cloaked Giant at least allows us to build our board back if we are playing a creature-based deck, or at least keep our enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers, things that we don't necessarily want to lose because we want to pay 6 mana to destroy all non-land permanents. You know, so that's just how I feel. Ritual of Soot being limited, and Kaya's Wrath, yeah, you know, it forces you into Orzhov colors. At least with Realm-Cloaked Giant and Cast Off, you're able to play white plus something else, and not just white and black at least. Yeah, so that's basically all I had to say. You know, you always gotta mention board clears. They always consistently in Magic, board clears have been money, have been playable, you know? I mean, just look at Kaya's Wrath. That's been playable. Even Planar Cleansing, I've actually played Planar Cleansing because Brought Back is in Standard right now, and used it consistently, surprisingly. I don't know how I feel about Planar Cleansing, other than I feel like it's crap. Ritual, it wasn't as playable, but it was initially, you know? So that's what I'm saying. At least now we're more well-rounded. The Magic Mirror, I almost didn't put this card in. It feels like a commander staple and not a standard staple, but I feel like there's going to be some semblance of a deck that this is in, and that's the reason why I put it in here. So it's 6 generic mana, 3 blue mana, legendary artifact, mythic rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature, instant, and sorcery card in your graveyard. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. So the primary thing that I'm thinking that you can do in Standard with this is just Surveil. It allows you to make this... Your goal with this is to turn it into a 3 mana legendary artifact, because then it's worth it. You know, then it can start to become a draw engine that you don't have to worry about. You know, something that gets bigger and bigger every single turn, and then you don't have a maximum hand size, so you're not worried about that either. Plus, with the Surveil idea, I didn't put the picture on here, but now that I'm thinking about it, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, I feel like Jace might get more support from the Magic Mirror being able to draw cards consistently in the Surveil idea. So I definitely think it's something to look into. Surveil by itself is a very powerful deck. Even though it hasn't really seen play recently, it's still, how should I say, it's still consistent. Is how I'd put that. So yeah, just food for thought, and such a beautiful card. Such a beautiful card. The Great Henge. Another card I didn't know if it was a commander staple only or if it actually belonged to Standard, but I do believe it belongs in Standard, and I'll tell you why. So the Great Henge, 7 generic 2 green legendary artifact, mythic rare. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Now notice it doesn't say total power, it says greatest power. So one single creature you control. That's the kicker. Tap it, add 2 green mana, you gain 2 life. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. So the reason why this card made it to standard for me is that it can be basically free because it taps for the amount of mana that you could spend on it. You know, if you paid 2 green mana for this, it taps for 2 green mana. That's considered free. Gains you 2 life. And then you can spend that mana to cast a non-token creature spell that enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter and draws you a card. It is a draw engine. That's the primary reason why this card is in here. Green needs draw. Green needs draw less than white needs draw, but it still needs draw. So, thoughts on this card. Palika Worm. I know it's not... I don't know why I put this in there. I thought I paid attention. So let's skip over Palika Worm. No Hide Ferox. 2 generic, 2 green, creature beast. It is a 6/6. So it would cost 3 mana to bring out the Great Henge, and then you would still be able to basically discount that, and it would only cost 1 mana to bring out the Great Henge. Very, very useful. And then the No Hide Ferox becomes a 7/7. If you cast it with the Great Henge out, and it draws you a card, which is good. Awakening of Vitu-Ghazi. The reason I put this card in there is because it makes one of your lands into a 9/9 creature, so then you can use that land to tap it, tap another green land, and then you have a free the Great Henge. So that's just my food for thought. I would like to take this moment to say, if you guys don't agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if y'all do or don't agree and why, because it's more important that I know why. Some people play differently than me, but I feel like if I'm going to play Mono Green Stompy, specifically Mono Green Stompy, I will have the Great Henge out. So, yes, my new commander, but we're not talking about commander. Let's talk about standard. Gadwick the Wizened. X cost 3 blue mana, legendary creature, human wizard, rare. When Gadwick the Wizened enters the battlefield, draw X cards. When you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls. His name is spoken only in whispers, but he hears just the same and is a 3/3 that can potentially just be for 3, to be honest with you. I'm not even thinking about the drawing X cards on this card, although that's okay, I guess, if you want to. But the thing about Gadwick that I like the best is that it really pairs with a card that I think was glanced over for a long time, and that's a Verity Circle. So Gadwick plus Verity Circle is just a great draw engine. Just a great draw engine. Mono Blue being played at instant speed is also a factor here. Also, I would like to say you can Spark Double Gadwick, and that makes it even better because then every blue spell taps 2 target permanents. So that's pretty good. I do appreciate also that it's not just creatures, it's target non-land permanents. So artifacts. I wish that we were playing by old Magic rules and that if you tapped a Planeswalker, they couldn't use it. That's how it used to be. That's also how it used to be if it was an artifact with a static ability or an enchantment. I mean, I wish we'd go back to those days. The primary card that I thought about to use with this, and let's imagine you get your Gadwick out, you get your Verity Circle out, you get your Spark Double out, then you play Queen of Ice's Adventure, Rage of Winter. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. That draws you a card. You tap another creature because you played a blue spell. You tap another creature because you have Spark Double out and you played a blue spell. You drew 3 cards off of Verity Circle. 3 cards for, what, 2 mana? That's not bad. It's really not that bad. So I'm thinking that Gadwick the Wizened can honestly make standard pretty busted. It is going to be a little bit of a tempo. But I think this is definitely something I'm interested in brewing around. Let's put it that way. So yeah. Harmonious Archon, 4 generic, 2 white mana creature Archon. It is a mythic rare as flying. Non-Archon creatures have base power and toughness 3/3. When Harmonious Archon enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1, technically 3/3s with the ability, white human creature tokens. First among equals. It is a 4/5. So the reason why this card's so good is because it's really the only Archon there is, you know? So it's going to basically make every card other than itself, and it also, by the way, is not legendary, so itself plus versions of itself into 3/3s. It's a 4/5, it's going to be able to survive a block and an attack against a 3/3. But let's make it into another thing. If you're playing a green-white token deck, a Selesnya token deck, you're playing Wolf's Quarry, for instance. Not the best, but let's say you are, okay? Your wolf tokens just became 3/3s that when they die, they still make those food tokens. Let's say you're playing Dawn of Hope. You're paying 4 mana to make a 3/3 white soldier creature token with a lifelink. That's good. Let's say you're playing Heroic Reinforcements. Not only are you going to make 2 3/3 white soldier creature tokens with haste, until end of turn, with haste, but all your creatures are also going to get +1/+1, making them 4/4s, and then the Harmonious Archon a 5/6 until end of turn. So there's definitely a way to make sure that Harmonious Archon wins you the game. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's going to be very playable in Standard, and I'm looking forward to seeing what specific type of deck it is in. I don't think it's a Naya token build, although that's kind of what it's hinting towards right here. But yeah, guys, that's my top 10. Let me know what y'all think below. I'm going to leave y'all with this lovely meme. And this has been Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.